I exist. So
I don't know about
that. Intellectually,
That's a broad statement.
so I was a little nervous to be doing this, especially following him, because during my dissertation, and all of you probably have experienced this, where there are certain books you sleep next to because you hope that it's going to be absorbed.
He's like, oh my God.
Through osmosis, right? So it's happy. I'm happy to see you in person. I'm humbled by it, and to be on this panel. Thank you for inviting me. Now, I'm really gonna be more of a narrator of this. This is gonna go through my whole dissertation in 10 minutes. So imagine what that is like. So you don't have to look at me, just pay attention to that. And then if you want to slow it down, you can go to blackdomthesis.com, where you can take this video and slow it down. You can go to my Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, any of all those. And then we also sell the t-shirts. So I'm an independent historian, so we gotta get it how we get it. You know what I mean? So, okay, so I'm gonna get started with what we will cover, okay? Now, this is built on top of the groundbreaking work of Black Towns and Prophet. And so, the way that I have, this is a Mac. Okay, I'll get it. There we go. I built it in time just in case that happened, actually. So what we will cover is Blackdom's history, the Blackdom thesis, and we will try to resurrect Blackdom with female narratives. Now, what I want you to notice is the lack of women and female narratives as we explore the Blackdom thesis. At the intersection of indigenous lands, the northern frontier of Mexico, and America's western frontier, notions of colonization converge. The contestation of stolen lands presented ambitious Black peoples with an opportunity to manifest a long-held desire for sovereignty in mind, body, and spirit. Blackdom's history can be split into 3 periods. The third period I'm the one who found. I'll tell you how I did that. You start with the lost years, and then you go to the revival, and then you go to boom times. That's the decade that I found that was lost to history. When presenting Blackdom's history from 1903 to 1929, the lost years are really not lost at all, except there's no public record of an asserted effort of Blackdom in this period, except for the incorporation of the Blackdom Townsite Company. So this presented a problem, especially when you're trying to write a dissertation. Now, there could be many reasons for the loss of cohesion amongst the Blackdomites. I present one in the Blackdom thesis. The revival of Blackdom, I just want you to see this real quick. The revival of Blackdom in 1909 had many motivators, and the key to Blackdomite success was their virtual existence and duality as people in Chavez County. As you can see, New Mexico to have a nigger town. On one hand, Blackdomites would cross municipal lines into Roswell, Dexter, and Artesia. The nebulous spaces created by frontier conditions provided opportunity for the ambitions of Black people to flourish. So on one hand, they would go into southeastern New Mexico and work as domestics, but then they would cross into the borders of the municipal boundaries of Blackdom and become frontierists and founders. Coincidentally, or not, as the idea of Blackdom matured into the Blackdom Townsite Company's incorporation, Du Bois' Souls of Black Folks was published in the same year. In this groundbreaking work, Du Bois gave us a nugget of the sacred knowledge held by the Black and illuminated. And so what you see here in this particular article is the amending of the charter. The year before that, they got a school. Coincidentally or not, when boom times came to the Black Demites in Chavez County, it was during the period historians accept as the Roaring Twenties. And this is a 1919 December newspaper. That's the front page, and that's the page that shows the Black Memorial coming up. Coincidentally or not, when boom times came to Black Demites in Chavez County, it was during the period historians accept as the Roaring Twenties. Black Demites incorporated the Blackton Oil Company and realized the dream of generational wealth and social mobility, which has it at its roots Ethiopianism of the 18th century rather than exodusterism of the 19th century. The Blackton thesis lessens the dependence on exoduster archetype to explore something new with Black people at the turn of the 20th century. The manifestation of Blackton in 1903 was a peak in a continuum, and you can see here how I set it up. Just idea registered, an idea nurtured, an idea matured, and then a death of an idea. Now, there's also a resurrection. This is how I set up my dissertation, with a continuum that leads to Blackton, because I thought that was one of the things that was missing from this story that I was getting about Black colonization. So, in the Blackton thesis, I'll give it to you in about 5 minutes. The Black colonization continuum will start at 1775. We can start at other times, but this is a good one. The idea of Ethiopia was a beacon of Black consciousness, which solidified in the muster of Black loyalists in Lord Dunmore's Ethiopian Regiment of Virginia. The Ethiopian Regiment was a peak, or a piercing of Black consciousness to help bring manifest the liberation of the Black body. Black bodies, in order to be liberated and stay sovereign after revolution, the experiment required an army to protect it. Loyalists modeled Ethiopianism in person, practice, and in places like Nova Scotia, Sierra Leone, West Africa during this period. What I want you to see is that from military to ministry, Black people carried Ethiopianism into their daily lives, as well as their sermons, and inspired the work of people such as Bishop Richard Allen, who sparked the revolution in Black liberation theology. From military, in the late 1700s, the African Methodist Church, for which Bishop Richard Allen was instrumental in founding, had an ethos shaped by the notions of repatriation, or back to Africa, for which the people were split into 2 or so Ethiopianist sects, but most of them remained under the AME Church. Nevertheless, amongst the illuminated ones, the division on repatriation didn't curtail the overall desire to colonize. It's Bishop Richard Allen. You see a little bit of his history there. Instead, Back to Africa grew the Black liberation movement, and the split was more subatomic in relation to the Black colonization, what I call continuum. Back to Africa in Black illuminated circles included the possibility of an ontological spiritual migration back to Africa that didn't have to manifest on African soil. And then there was Prince Hall. Prince Hall was the founder of what we refer to as the Black Freemasonry. Prince Hall was a peak in Black liberation at the advent with the advent of African Lodge No. 1. Prince Hall Freemasonry was a manifestation of Ethiopianism and Black liberation, amongst other things. Moreover, Black Freemasonry became foundational in the lives of the illuminated, as projected in the life of military man Prince Hall, who became a minister in Bishop Allen's AME Church, AME Ecclesiastical Order. From military to ministry to masonry, Black people nurtured, matured, and executed colonization schemes throughout the 19th century, seeking sovereignty and with the social technology of the day. Fast forward to 1847, which is a pivotal time in borderland studies, US history, and the African diaspora. Duality of an African consciousness in foreign land fostered a need for sovereignty and soil dominated by black bodies. Among the illuminated, Liberia's independence in 1847 was an avenue to invest one's ambitions. At the intersection of indigenous lands, Mexico's northern frontier, and the US western frontier, the convergence offered an alternative way for the ambitious among the illuminated to make manifest a Negrotopia. Black institutions that nurtured Ethiopianism, religious communion, as well as military defense and assault tactics, continuously matured and progressed into the 20th century. Blackdom was simply a peak in that continuum. And what